Welcome to the Child Care Director's Chair, the podcast for bold educators who are ready to lead, grow, and shake things up in early childhood education. Whether you're a teacher eyeing that lead role, a lead stepping into leadership, or a center owner dreaming big, this is your space to grow with purpose and leave your mark. Hosted by heart-centered leadership coach Erica Sacoccio, each episode brings you real talk, actionable tools, and a contagious laugh or two, all designed to help you step into your next level with confidence. So pour your coffee, pop in those earbuds, and take your seat, because your leadership journey starts right now in the Child Care Director's Chair.
Whether you are a parent doing story time in your living room, a family child care provider with toddlers underfoot and spaghetti on the stove, or you're a center-based teacher trying to balance ratios, learning, lesson plans, it can all feel very overwhelming. But amazing lesson plans don't require expensive materials or Pinterest-worthy setups or hours of prep. What they do require is intentionality, connection, and a little bit of creativity. In today's episode, we are breaking down how to design playful, powerful lessons that work in your space, wherever that might be. Because learning doesn't just happen in classrooms, it happens wherever children feel loved, curious, and free to explore. Today, we are joined with the Instagram sensation. Uh, she is the lesson planning guru. I'm going to give her a minute to tell us a little bit about herself and how she came into this work. Mike is yours, honey.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm super excited. Um, my name is Leora, and I am the owner of Lesson Planning Guru. I started my journey 20 years ago in the classroom. So I was a classroom teacher, elementary teacher for 10 years. I had a lot of students in third and fourth grade could not read, and I didn't understand why they were coming to me and they couldn't read. And so one year I had a chance to teach kindergarten, and I was like, yes, it's going to be fantastic. And the first week I realized, oh, we have a major language barrier problem. We have behavior issues. There's still gaps in there. And then once I said, okay, so who's before me? Who is before kindergarten and childcare? Early education. And so that's how I came out of the classroom and I opened up a childcare center. I owned a childcare center for 3 years. And then after COVID, I closed it and I became a family home because I like the intimacy and I like all the things. And so as of right now, I write curriculum. And that is who I am. I am an advocate of early education. I'm an advocate of kids learning. That is my heartbeat, because it makes a difference when a child can read and is able to learn.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk about what an amazing lesson looks like to you, and how do you define success when working with young children?
Oh, okay. So for me is the excitement. When kids are excited and they find it fun and they're laughing and they're talking, to me that is successful. When the teacher is like excited and happy and they're both is like a back and forth, to me that is successful, because a kid won't necessarily sometimes remember what you say to them, but they will always remember how they felt. And so if they're engaged and they enjoy learning, they will always remember that. And that's, to me, is more important, that eagerness to learn, not always what you learn.
Mm, yeah, I think that is absolutely true. And there are when we're teaching a lesson, there's so many things that children learn beyond that lesson, right? How to communicate, how to take turns. There's just so much that goes into that beyond the actual intentional lesson that we're trying to teach, right? Like you said, we might be trying to teach about avocados. Maybe I don't remember about avocados at 4 years old, but I remember I liked them. I remember them; they tasted good. I remember they were mushy, right? So they're gonna remember some things that might be go beyond the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some of the most important things to consider when creating lessons for different settings, especially like you said, family childcare, where you might have a child who's 3 and 7 in the same space?
hmm And I think it goes back to, you kind of hit on it earlier. It's about, what is the intentionality? what is it that you want this child to get from what you're teaching them, right? Is it the five senses? Is it the number three? Is it just a classroom management piece? Is it a social and emotional piece? You have to me, is like, what is it that you want this child to get from what you're presenting to them? That's very important, no matter what the age, skill, or any of that. I think you have to consider, what do you want them to learn and where they're at as a child, because everybody learn at different levels, they learn different ways. What is their ability? You have to think about that. You can't do a lesson on matter if that child can't comprehend that, unless you bring it down on a level where they can understand that. So to me, is, what do you want them to get out of it, and knowing where that child capability lies, because that's important.
Yeah, I think too the environment plays a big part in how children learn. Like, is it individual? Is it a group lesson? Is it small group? Is it large group? And I think that that's something that teachers really need to be intentional about too, because not every lesson is big group. No, it's not.
Mm.
And then, how does learning centers, we're a play-based program at my school. How do learning centers maybe play a piece in how you present lessons?
So in centers, I mean, it works both ways. Like, and I can speak from how I taught my center. So if when we do it, is introductory. Is we're going to in the group and we're going to talk about it. And I like to integrate everything. So if I'm learning about pineapples, we're gonna count the pineapples. We're gonna
Mm,
taste the pineapples. We're gonna smell the pineapples. You're gonna go to the science and hands-on, and it's gonna be like little pineapple chucks. You go to the play area where the cooking. You're gonna do pineapple milkshakes. So for me, I like to integrate, not isolate learning. Perhaps I like
mhm.
to integrate it into everything that I'm doing, because then that way, as an educator, you're not working as hard, because guess what? I'm introducing it, and then they're gonna go to the play area, and then I'm gonna go and talk to them, or the teacher's gonna go and talk to them. They're gonna talk to each other, right? They're gonna make up new things, and are gonna be talking up with the language that we talked about in whole group, right? Hey, pineapples, pineapples. And throughout the week or throughout the month, then we're by the end of the month, they gonna they gonna know a pineapple. They gonna know how it tastes. They're gonna be familiar, like you said, how it feels, how it tastes. And so that's how I teach. And I teach, because I think it's important that, like you kind of said, that sometimes teachers, we do something because it's cute or it sounds good, and they we do it one time, but then it's like, okay, it's cute, but where's the substance? What do you want that
Mm.
child to get? At the end of this lesson, you want to be able to gather data. Did they really learn what I wanted them to learn? Do I need to go back and teach it? Do I need to, okay, was it too low? Do I need to start high? You need to have those pinpoints of what you're doing with that child.
Yeah. And I think, as you collect that data, use that data to then build your lessons.
Yeah.
Like, if you know that this child is like struggling, can't tie his shoes, can't hold a pencil, make sure that you're providing as much fine motor activity throughout your lesson plans to
Yeah.
help your child master that. Not everything is going to be, okay, let's practice tying a shoe or holding a pencil. There's a billion ways to help that child gain that skill and that, that fine motor development, hand-eye coordination, those types of things. And then you can continue to like, let's work on the shoe, but I don't know that we always think about that.
But
Let me
I just
go ahead.
But also,
Yeah.
too, you have to understand the body too, right? You have to understand development as a child at what age, because if the child is 2, you don't want to just take them, oh, this is how you tie a shoe. You want to
Hmm.
little tongues, and have them practice, because these motor skills in the fingers, there's so many bones they have to develop. They have to dig, they have to do different things. So
Hmm.
it goes back in knowing what is the developmentally appropriate to teach this child when building a lesson. That's very important.
Yeah. Um, let's talk for a minute about maybe leadership because a lot of leaders listen to our podcast. Um, what ways can directors or assistant directors or even lead teachers help assist teachers to make sure that they are creating amazing lesson plans?
I think the first and foremost is that you have to have a system and you have to be consistent with that system, right? So if you're doing, you have to know what is your program doing? What is the aim in that classroom, right? So if I'm more play based, then I'm going to create a template. Okay, you need to hit this. No matter what teacher's in there, no matter what director, this is the template. This is how we do things. And we're not going to change up unless it's not meeting the needs of our students. Everybody has to be trained on it and everybody has to use it this way. Because one of the things that I learned in my center that works the best, because we know in not all centers, but we have a high turnover, right? One of the best things that I've ever done is make sure I had a template, I had a consistency, and I had a way to do everything. Even if you were stocking the pantry, there was a way to do it, right? If it was lesson plan, this is the template, this is what we're learning. Now you can produce it in a different way. Oh, I want to, use pineapples or I want to use bananas, whatever. But the format is going to be the same because no matter who's in that classroom, it will take me 10 or 15 minutes to say, this is what we do. I'm going to do a training, but I need you to follow it step by step by step by step. You can put your own flair to it, but this is the procedures. You must have procedures and you must be consistent. If you do not have those two things, you will have chaos.
Yeah. So you said template. So for the folks who don't have a template and they're like, that sounds like a great idea. I want to go and create one.
Mhm.
What are some core things that you feel should be on that template?
Okay, so if we're talking about lesson plans, you need to make sure that you have an objective. The objective is nothing about what is simple in layman terms is what do you want this child to learn? What are you going to teach? Secondly, how are you going to teach it? Right? What are the things that you need to teach it? Thirdly, you're going to have, okay, now how am I going to make sure that I make sure that this child knows it? How am I going to say, okay, now I'm going to teach it. Now we're going to do it together, right? Once we do it together, then I'm going to do independent. So I'm going to watch you do it. Now, baby, you go do it, right? And then at the end, more independent, I want to see if they can do it. If they're going to talk the vocabulary that I've taught, or can they write the letter P? So, for instance, let me just go back. Let's just take the letter P, right? So, if I want to teach the letter P, I'm going to say, okay, the objective is I want the kids to be able to recognize and write the letter P. That is what I want to teach. Now I need to go back and say, well, how am I going to teach that? Am I going to play a video? Am I going to do a song? Am I going to do a dance? How am I going to teach that? That's the first, okay? So let's say, oh, we're going to watch a video and then I'm going to show the letter P, right? That is my introduction. So once we do that, now I want to say, now I want you to practice. We're going to practice together. So maybe my activity is I have a bowl with peas and I have all the students say, okay, we're going to find the letter P and it's other letters. So I'm having students come up and find the letter P. That way I'm checking for understanding. I'm giving them practice, but then I'm paying attention and say, oh, okay, who knows? Right? Who knows what? And then we're going to come back together. Then I'm going to do a little individual activity and check for understanding, right? And then finally, we're going to come back together and we're going to talk about the letter P and close it out, right? Simple as that. And I don't know if I said too much or was
No,
break.
you're fine.
So I think
um,
people teach, it should be taught with introduction, how they're going to teach it, what forms they're going to teach it, checking for understanding, and then closing it out with making sure that they know what they learned. To recap.
yeah. I think all those things absolutely should be on the form. The other thing from my perspective as a child care owner, I also need teachers, listen up. I need the list of supplies that you need for,
Yeah,
for the activity, and I need them before the day of the activity.
yeah, gotta have the
Yeah,
supplies.
yeah. And then also think about where you want to teach it, right? Because not everything, and I almost implore you to not do this. Not everything needs to be taught at the circle time. I have this thing that I have to like really push the teacher, like,
Mm.
yeah, circle time is great. It's a great place, like you said, to introduce something, but you should be teaching and observing and talking outside,
Yeah,
at lunch. Yeah, I know, but we gotta say it for the people in the back. We gotta say it.
yeah,
You're teaching everywhere. You know, there's this like holy grail of circle time. Circle time is one of the many places that you teach children. The other part I'd love to talk about is like, what about the children taking the lead, right? Because you're not the
yeah,
only one, right? Can you talk a little bit about letting children take the lead
yeah.
of teaching?
Yeah, and so then I want to go back a little bit too, right? So if
Yeah.
you understand that like the procedure of introducing a lesson, having supplies, having all those things, it doesn't matter who does it or where you do it, right? Because it's already present. And one beautiful thing about children is once you introduce them to a system or the way that things go and it's repetitive, they'll do it like clockwork.
Mhm.
They'll do it better than you. So when you have system in place and you are consistent, then you can let the child take lead. Hey, we're gonna learn the letter P, and you know how Miss C does it. Can you be the teacher today? And those kids that they get so excited, and then you can sit back and you just guide the lesson. But it goes back to what are your systems? Are you doing something different every single day? Because again, it doesn't matter what you do, but it does matter of how you do things. So kids, because the brain works, they're always looking for patterns. We're always looking
Yeah.
for patterns. So when you consistency is a pattern. So when you create consistency in your classroom or even as a leader, like our brain picks up on that and we will mimic that to the T. And the children would do it better than us.
Yeah, I saw that in real life, so I kind of brought it up. During my field study, I was placed in a kindergarten room.
Mhm.
And I said to the teacher, I was like, what do you want me to do? And I was there as a, college student. And she said, oh, you can lead circle time. And I said, okay. She goes, no, you're just going to stand there. The kids run their own circle time. I said, what? I never saw that before. And sure as heck, they sure did. They would have the names on the board. Everybody had a job. Who
Mhm.
was pointing to the letters and all the things. And it was pretty cool. The only thing the teacher did through all of our circle time was she read the story.
Mhm.
Other than that, the kids ran the whole thing. And so that was cool. And then consistency. I was just talking to a teacher the other day. We were talking about consistency, and she was subbing in a classroom. And teachers that were in the room subbing, they had done something out of order. I think the kids normally would set up their carts, put their sheets on, and then bring the lunch to the table. And I
Mhm.
guess they had the kids bring the lunch to the table first. And this little girl was like, no, 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 that's not how we do it. So yeah, they're very much paying attention. And they let them sub teachers know you are doing it wrong.
Make such
But
a difference. It when we start talking about kids that maybe don't have consistency at home or they have things going on at home or they have behavior issues. When you have a room that is consistent and those kids know what to expect, it brings down the anxiety in that.
mm,
It brings down the behavior because then I'm not feeling anxious. I know what to expect.
yeah.
It's just so many levels to being consistent. The
I I think too the other thing is what creates higher level teachers in teaching. You talk about anecdotal notes and you talk about observations. And a lot of times that I have in my experience saw teachers kind of almost neglect that part of teaching, and when you're observing, you're able to see not only what your intention was for the children to learn from that, but sometimes they learn things, almost always, they're learning something that you hadn't planned for or intended. And I always think that that is a cool aha moment as a teacher in my days in the classroom. I always thought that that was like, wow, I hadn't thought of that. Kids are very smart.
Yes, they are, and they just pick up things, especially when you make it interesting and it's fun, and when you are engaged as an educator. When you are engaged
Yes.
as an educator and you're excited about that lesson, and you just they gravitate, and they will learn from you, they learn from each other. And then the thing, like you said, when you present a lesson and they take it in a different direction, like that's my, I'm like, I didn't even think of that. Right? Yes. Or you've taught a lesson like months before, and then they connect the dots back. Hey, you remember when this is the same thing, but just, that to me, it's like, ha ha, we're doing something.
Yeah. Yeah. I worked a time with school age kids, and I remember one of the teachers said, "These school age kids don't want to do anything." I said, "They don't want to do anything, or you don't want to do anything?" And they're like, "No, they're not interested in anything. All they want to do is be on their phones and video games." Now, there's some truth to that narrative. I said, "But I'm gonna challenge you." I said, "Grab me a book from the library." So he grabbed me a book, and it happened to be a book about a fly. It was like a cartoon. So I read them almost to the end of the book, but I didn't finish the book. I said, "Okay, now we're gonna take this paper. Y'all gonna finish the end of the book for me." And
Mm.
so they all drew, and it was simple. It was literally just a book, was not planned. I just grabbed the book, paper and crayons, like everybody has that in their school. And it was just really to show the point that because I was excited about it
Mm.
and I did it in my very, grand way because I'm loud and funny and animated. These were school age kids, which that's a hard group to impress. And they did it. And they did it. So the lesson is important. The context is important. The supplies are important. You are equally an important factor of great lesson planning.
Oh yes, because if you not interested, or you giving off like, oh, I don't want to be here today, then you might as well just sit down, because those kids are gonna be bouncing off the wall, jumping on each other head. You're not gonna be done. You might as well just go.
Yeah,
Just, hey, go to the centers.
you're going to blame it on the moon. You're going to say, "Oh, it must have been a full moon," or your lack of preparation, honey.
Absolutely.
Can you share a time that a lesson maybe completely flopped and what you learned from it?
Oh God, it's been
We
quite
all had one.
a, yeah. Oh, let me see. Um, just, you got to put me on the spot. Let's see. I know
Well,
I've had some trust. Oh, yes, yes. When I taught kinder, and we were doing this scarecrow. And so I was teaching, reading the book, and we were talking about sequence. And you had to cut things out, and it was long, it was chopped up. I didn't realize that at the time that most of the kids really couldn't cut that well, and they couldn't glue that well. And that was like my first year teaching kinder, because I came down. So in third and fourth, that skill is already set.
Mhm.
When I tell you, when we were done, we finished, but it was a hot mess, and I needed a drink. Okay.
Yeah. You know whose fault it was that those kids couldn't use the scissors? Whose fault that was? I'm gonna tell you.
Who?
Because I got some of these folks. Preschool teachers, stop cutting the stuff for your students. Let them cut. You already had your time to learn how to use the scissors.
They
And
got,
for there's a one teacher in particular that I go back and forth with. I'm like, it's the process of learning.
yeah.
It's not about the project.
Mhm.
So that, yeah. So the preschool teachers who are still cutting stuff for kids,
Please
and
stop.
nowadays they make safety scissors. I don't want to hear all your excuses. They
Yeah.
make the ones where they can't cut their hair and they can't cut their clothes, right? Allow them to do it. They're never going to get good at it if you don't allow them to do it. And
Yeah.
I see it you see it, you see it. They cut everything out for them. They pass up oh, we're going to make a duck on a boat. It's all cut out for them. They're just basically gluing it. That's
Yeah.
not creative arts, guys.
Yeah.
That's following one, two, three directions, but that is not creative arts.
But it also should be a part of their curriculum too, because that's
Yeah.
fine,
Yes, it is.
right?
Yeah.
So they you should have that part of your section at the beginning of the year for a month
Mhm.
or so. Okay, lines of paper. We're gonna practice. We're gonna
Mhm.
practice safety on scissors, how to put them up, how to take them out, what to do with them. and it has to be consistent and it has to be repetitive over and over and over until they just run like clockwork, and then it has to be part of their curriculum though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now we're getting to it, guys. Now we're getting to it. How do you incorporate materials you already have into your lessons without spending a ton of money? Because let's face it, it ain't a lot of money in this in this field, right?
It
So you don't have to go to Lakeshore and spend. I love Lakeshore, by the way. No shade to Lakeshore, but you don't. Not every lesson
has
requires a $60 box from Lakeshore.
no. I'll be kind of honest with you. If we just pick, I'm not saying all the time because sometimes it is good, but sometimes I just kind of feel like that's the lazy way out because it's
Hmm.
packed in the box, it's cute, take it out, let's do it, right?
Yep.
But like you said, there is so many things in our natural environment that we can use. Right. And if you think about the lesson, let's not think about lesson per lesson, but just think about for the whole year. By the time that baby comes to you and you have them the whole, where do you want to see them go at the end? Right. And when you're thinking like that for the whole year, then it helps you. Okay, what kind of things? How am I going to get that child there? Right. So to me, if you have some glue and some scissors and some crayons and some maybe glitter, depends on how you feel, if it makes you drink or not, right? Um,
In moderation, glitter in moderation.
and stuff in nature, like you don't need anything else, right? Because outside is plentiful. The goodwill is plentiful. It's plentiful, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and one of the things that I used to do, I used to get hooked up with whatever is my closest school to me. And I would go introduce myself and I would tell them, hey, I'm the owner, or, at the time, the owner of the child, or even a teacher. Let's say if you're a teacher, you go there and you say, I am from your neighborhood. I see a lot of kids come from my center, go to your school. This is what they're supposed to do. I want to make sure that they are learning. And when you get them, they're ready. But I know you have, sometime at the end of the year, can you donate? Can you give? And you will be amazed.
Mm,
Amazed. Because what happens in those classrooms at the end of the year, even if you say, can I come at the end of the year when teachers are cleaning out their classroom and walk your halls? They throw away construction paper, they throw away crayons, they throw away scissors, they throw away books. Because when they get a new curriculum, they just trash it because they have
yeah,
plentiful money, unlike us. So they just trash it. So I would say that's the way that I save money. Make friends with your local schools in your area and introduce yourself and tell them that you have a need. And I want to make sure that this student gets to you ready in kindergarten. But, so that's what I used to do. And that's how I save money. And
yeah.
fancy stuff. I repeat myself. I don't.
And rotating materials through other classrooms too, like that also is a great way to save money and be able to do things over and over again. I
Mhm,
have teachers who have bins and bins and bins of stuff that they would just like bring in and then bring home. They have their January bin, their February bin, and they rotate them around, but and they share them with each other. As we start to wrap up, maybe how do you adapt your lesson plans when things go off track or maybe a child just isn't feeling it for that day?
so I do twofold because children are children, right? And we have to be able to meet them where they are. And so, sometime when I used to teach, or my teachers used to teach, I was like, look at the room. What is the energy in this room, right? Are the children engaged? Are they not? Are they fussy? Are they cranky? Are you cranky? Right? And then, if it is, let's stop and ask them, what's going on? How are we feeling? What's going on? What would y'all like to do today? And they'll tell you. And sometimes you'll think they say, I just want to play. And then they will tell you, well, I want to learn this or I want to do this. And sometimes it's just about, you know what, you guys, let's go to center, let's play, let's disperse, and we'll try again tomorrow. Because sometimes you just have to do that and be okay with that. And because again, that is a part of learning, because everybody needs to know how to regulate their emotions and know that it's okay. Every day is not gonna be a
Yeah.
good. So that's how let's revisit. We're gonna revisit this tomorrow. Or maybe sometime we have to switch it and cut it down or stop it where it's at. You gotta read the room.
Yeah. So I find like even when we're talking about curriculum, like we made a lot of references towards art projects and writing, those types of things, because they're tangible, right? So those sometimes seem to be the ones that teachers are most comfortable with, right?
Hmm.
What's your strategy for maybe layering things like literacy or math or science into everyday activities like snack time or cleanup or outdoor play?
Hmm. Well, I think a lot of my go to or wanted to go to is when for snack for cooking. I call it cooking for tots, right? So much math and science in there, right? So when you're doing snack time, all right, let's count out, right? How many people we got? 5 students. Let's count out, make sure, and then you can give students assignments, right? In there, we're gonna do snack time. All right, now it's your job to pass out this. It's your job to do this, and we're gonna start from this way. Now, does that feel heavy? Or what color? Like to me during snack time, like I know you were saying, like we talk about we need to have center time and count the number three. No, at snack time let's count because that's tangible and it makes more sense to children because that's what we're gonna do with it anyway.
Yes, yep.
So
We
to
have yeah. How
me,
many friends are at the table? How many plates do you need?
yeah, yes, how
Yeah.
many cups? How many cups, guys? 5. Show me 5 fingers. All right,
Mm,
count the 5 fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, pass out the cups. Let's go.
yeah.
And stuff that everyday stuff that we think we do, but that's how you incorporate. It doesn't have to be sit down when you outside. All right, now everybody, let's count to 5. Count them off and jump. Do 5 jumping jacks. Like,
I can tell you're super fun. Could you imagine both of us in the same classroom?
oh, you talk.
we would we'd have a blast. All right. So last question I'm going to ask you, and then we'll start to wrap up. But what advice would you give to someone who feels intimidated or unqualified to create, real lesson plans? What do you
I,
tell them?
I would say we have all this technology. We have YouTube, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, and now we have Chat GPT, right? Find somebody that sounds like you that you want to be and follow them. What are they doing? Send them an email, send them a text, reach out to them, find you a mentor, and then you have to also invest in yourself, right? So you got to know, what am I lacking? What's making me feel this way? If no one's never told you like you suck or you a bad teacher, then that's in you. What's making you feel inadequate? Address it. And then read some books, listen to some podcasts, get around some people that you admire to be, and change the scenario and the voice in your head. Because
That's
there's no
great advice.
reason to be inadequate in this day and time.
Yeah. So tell folks that are maybe struggling with lesson planning or just maybe not struggling, but just want some new ideas. Tell
Mhm.
folks how they can get a hold of you.
So I am on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook as Lesson Planning Guru, so they can reach me that way. They can also email me at Lesson Planning Guru if you want lesson plans or if you want some more instructions of how to implement it in multiple ages. My background, like I said, I came from a classroom. I've owned a center. I've done family child. I am interested in making sure that child is ready for kindergarten. That is where my heart lies. That's what I love to do. I love to talk to other educators. So I will have a subscription model where they can come on and get all the things. But most importantly is that one-on-one where you can ask me questions and ask me, how can I implement this? How do you, what happens when this happens or what other extra stuff that you need is very personal. And sometime in this, especially early education, sometimes we don't have that access to people like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I am here.
I have so much enjoyed our conversation today. For folks, here's your reminder: you don't need a teaching degree, a
Mm-mm.
Pinterest board, a fancy curriculum to create amazing lesson plans. What you need to start with is what matters: your children, their interests, your heart for teaching, and whether you're at home, whether you're with your own kiddos, you're leading a group of 20, great lessons start with connection. So give yourself permission, keep it simple, stay curious, and trust that you are exactly what your children need. Keep showing up because we need you, kids need you. Keep making learning magical in your own way. This is a Child Care Director's Chair podcast. We are tuning out, and as always, have a wonderful day.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Child Care Director's Chair, where we believe leaders aren't born, they're grown. If something sparked for you today, share it, shout it out, or pass it along to the next bold changemaker in childcare. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected with Erica Sacosio for more real talk leadership tools and a whole lot of inspiration. Until next time, lead with heart, grow with fire, and always remember, the chair is yours. Now own it.